we would like to bring in our next guest, who is Cara Schulz, the Libertarian City Council member in Burnsville, Minnesota, and also the National Candidate Recruitment Specialist for the National Libertarian Party, which has come out strongly against President Trump's emergency wall declaration. Cara, welcome to Breitbart News Tonight.
Thank you very much for having me on.
So, Cara, I'm looking at the statement that the National Libertarian Party has issued, saying that President Trump's only national emergency is keeping his base happy. Let me read from this. It says, Trump may have a political emergency as he tries to keep his anti-immigration base happy, but research consistently shows that increased immigration expands our economy and that migrants commit fewer crimes than Native Americans. We benefit from open borders, I guess. So, Cara, is your position that basically we should have open borders completely, or do you think that we should have any sort of border security, or what?
You know, how we look at border security and also matters of citizenship, who can cross back and forth over borders. When you're looking at a libertarian view on this, what we see is there's a difference, number one, between citizenship and then the concept of peaceful, hardworking people being able to walk across the border, being able to enter and leave at will. For a free country, we need to actually act like a free country. And so we would have a fast, simple process for people to enter. And so you can address safety concerns, because we do, want to have, good people entering, and we want to beef up safety and that kind of thing. But other than that, all people should be able to enter and live and work, and U.S. citizens should be able to go across the border as well. And we see that the deadlock is between the two old parties, and it's very centered on mixing up citizenship with being able to cross a border. And that needs to be separated out. Those are two separate matters. And yes, peaceful people, hardworking, industrious people should be able to cross back and forth over a border. And so that's our position on how we see this.
Let me ask you this. Do you have any problem or any issue with the gaming of our asylum system? Because we see a 1,744% increase. I actually read that right. A 1,744% increase in the number of asylum requests in the last year, according to the latest statistics from our Department of Homeland Security. So we are apprehending just this week alone in just one sector of our border, the Rio Grande Valley sector. Our Border Patrol agents intercepted 7,000 migrants coming in from Mexico. 7,000. Again, just one area of the border. And each time they bring in more people as they check the backgrounds of people, the ones that they can check the background of. Many of them are people who were previously deported for very violent crimes. How do you address that? I mean, you don't think that it's an issue at all that we have people coming across illegally that we have no idea who they are many times, and they're not, they don't have the same legal...
If we have a very simple process and a quick screening process, then that addresses the problem of safety. But like anything government starts to meddle into, they make the process complicated. They start to put various strange little quotas in different areas. So, this group of people can come in and this group of people can't, just based on what country of origin they're in. So we see it as hampering. Government is actually making this problem worse. They see that there's an issue. People want to be able to cross back and forth. We also want to have an issue of safety. And then government does what it usually does, which is the exact wrong way to address a problem. So if they made a streamlined process that was very orderly, very quick, people could move back and forth quickly, and we wouldn't have a problem with illegal immigration. We wouldn't have a problem where people are saying, there's no point in me applying or going through the process because it's just not ever going to happen because it's inherently unfair. People often say government is the problem, but our position is that's not true. But government is often a bad method for solving problems. And that's what we're seeing here.
Let me ask you something. There's a big constitutional debate going on right now, and I remember during the Obama era when Obama went outside the Constitution and used or abused executive power to declare DACA or DAPA, for example, or when he refused to get the Libya war authorized by Congress, or where he refused to present the Iran deal to the Senate for ratification. All of these things were violations of the Constitution. The media were silent. Now that Trump wants to use a legal process, which is the National Emergency Declaration under the National Emergencies Act of 1976, we're hearing all these people, including some Republicans, talk about the separation of powers and concern about executive overreach, but this is all legal and constitutional. What is the case against what Trump is doing legally? Because I haven't heard anybody actually make that case. Go for it.
Okay. Well, first of all, I will say that I am not an attorney, nor have I, slept in a Holiday Inn Express, so I can't even pretend to be one. But in looking at this, when presidents, when we look at a president declaring a national emergency, which presidents can do, they absolutely can do, it was designed to be used as a temporary thing to address a situation because there was absolutely not time to go through normal channels to pass or change laws to deal with the situation. So it was supposed to be for very urgent, unforeseen events. Now, a slow moving group of people walking through multiple countries in order to reach our border, which happens every year, is not urgent nor unforeseen. This is a chronic situation, and it is a situation brought about because the two old parties can't agree on a system for how people can cross a border. That's what it is. So that's basic.
That's an argument over whether there is an emergency, and we can have that argument. But I'm saying, given that we have this law that allows the president to declare an emergency, I mean, we've got presidents going back to Jimmy Carter declaring emergencies for all sorts of things that don't really seem very urgent. By the way, 11 out of Obama's 12 emergencies are still emergencies, if you can believe that. We still have 11 out of the 12 that he declared are still here. So it's not as if every one of these emergencies was urgent and pressing. I mean, some of them just dealt with important situations that the president needed to deal with in his judgment, or her judgment, I suppose, one day. So what is the case against allowing Trump to do what everyone else has done?
Well, I think we should follow the advice most of our mothers have given us, which is just because someone else does a bad thing doesn't mean you should too. So citing that other presidents have abused this in the past doesn't mean that every president now and in the future should also make a point of abusing it. I mean, after all, does Donald Trump really want to be in the same company as FDR's internment of Japanese American citizens?
Well, I wouldn't
he
put
invoked
it in
a national
that
emergency.
I mean, isn't that subjective? I mean, you can decide that this is an abuse of power,
subjective.
But yeah, so it's subjective. But the law allows it to be subjective. I mean, the law says this is in the discretion of the president to decide. Now, I guess there's a process for overriding a president, but they're not going to be able to pull together a 2/3 majority in either of the houses to do that.
No, I highly doubt that they will be able to override it. And part of what you're saying is exactly the problem with this. It is extremely subjective. So this is very subjective. It is difficult for Congress to overcome. And it makes it so that presidents abuse this. It's kind of like executive orders. Presidents really like to abuse those as well. That doesn't mean we should excuse presidents for doing so. And, whether you want to excuse a president because you're on team red or you're on team blue, that's not a valid excuse. We should be doing the right thing. We should be holding our president to a certain level of behavior and not excusing it because someone else did it in the past. And we also should not excuse overreach just because it touches on an issue that we kind of like or agree with. Principles are when you stand on the principle, no matter if it benefits you at that moment or not. And that's what we need to see.
Can I ask you, when you say that, everybody should just be allowed to cross our border at will, as they want, and whatever repercussion that has on the communities of Americans, it doesn't matter. Do you think that I guess, do you even acknowledge that there is an economic impact on American communities when they have to compete with people who don't have to pay taxes and can undercut them their wages and can be paid under the table by employers for just almost slave labor wages? Do you even acknowledge
Well,
that?
if we had a very simple process for people to come back and forth, and we were able to put that into place, they would be paying taxes. They wouldn't be under the table. Everything would be above board. But the one thing that's not being brought up in these discussions is how blocking people, restricting them from being able to come into our country infringes on our rights as Americans, our right to have the people we choose in our lives. The government is saying, no, you can't have the people you choose come visit in your home. They can't rent an apartment from you. That is none of the government's business and is an infringement on our liberties.
All right,
we have freedom of association. Boy, if you want to employ this person, nope, I'm sorry. And as libertarians, we say, as long as there's a process to address safety concerns, that is none of the government's business and is an infringement on our liberties.
All right,
we have freedom of association.
The majority of Americans actually support having secure borders and would like to know who's coming into their house, so to speak, their country.
And if you have a safe, easy process to do so, you still have that.
That's called legal immigration. We're addressing illegal border crossings here, or a migrant system that is basically gaming our system, where it's essentially an open border to the entire world. Is there any limit of how many people you think we should allow into our country, regardless of the impact that has in driving down wages for American citizens?
I think if you have a safe, quick process for people to be able to enter and leave your country, you don't have a problem with people illegally trying to enter your country.
But
the government
sort of like,
creating its own problem.
Let me put it another way.
If you make something very difficult to do the right way, you raise barriers. Say we look at a Second Amendment right issue. If you make it extremely difficult for people to comply with laws, they find a way around them. And that's not what you want to have happen. You don't want people to try to circumvent your laws. That just breeds disrespect. And we don't want that. We want people to have respect for our laws. If you make the process very simple, straightforward, easy to follow, you get rid of all these very bizarre quotas based on what country they're in, what situation they're in, then people are going to follow the rules. They're going to come in easily, leave easily.
Do you think that we have any obligation to American citizens, though? Do you think that American citizens have that our government has an obligation to American citizens to listen to us when we say that, we don't, we would like closed borders and we'd like to have a say in how many people come in and give them time to assimilate to American culture? Do you think that there is any issue with that?
I think that the American public absolutely has a right to have our government work in an efficient manner. And it's not working in an efficient manner as far as having people be able to come back and forth across borders. So yes, Americans absolutely have a right to have more efficiency in our government. And our inefficiency in our government is causing us chaos and pain and problems.
Final question I have for you. What do you say to American workers, like people, for example, in the construction industry who have lost their incomes because of competition from illegal immigrants who don't have to apply the same rules? What do you say to them?
I would say that we need to reform our immigration system so that people can cross back and forth so that they're not below the table and they are playing by the exact same rules as they are. There will be no cash payments anymore, because anyone that comes across the border and wishes to work has documentation, has paperwork, they will be paying taxes, everything will be above the board. The problem is we're having them be illegal and then it's below the board. That's where the problem is. So if we want to fix that situation and we want a very level playing field, that's how we need to fix it. And that definitely is a libertarian solution. Make it fair, make it very transparent, and get rid of the inefficiencies that we have in our government.
You know what? Cara Schulz, thank you so much for coming and offering a different opinion. We always appreciate other opinions on this show.